Hey, welcome back. Today, we're diving into an absolutely brilliant strategic breakdown. It's all about how one company took on this massive, overwhelming business problem and, just by asking one simple question, found the perfect place to start. Let's get into it. So just imagine for a second, your job is to solve the financial problems of an entire country. I mean, where do you even start? It's just huge, right? Well, this is the exact challenge the team was staring down. And it's not one single problem, it's like 100 different problems all tangled up together. And yeah, the chaos is real. You've got debt, you've got people who are underinsured, they don't have emergency funds, retirement is totally on the back burner, and lifestyle costs are just creeping up and up. It's this messy, interconnected web. How on earth do you find one single thread to pull that's actually gonna make a difference? Okay, so their first attempt was pretty logical. They tried to map all these problems to big, broad age groups. They saw that debt was a big issue for people between, say, 30 and 45. But think about that. A 15-year age gap is massive. The life of a 30-year-old is completely different from a 45-year-old. The targets were just way, way too broad to be of any real use. And this is where the magic happens. This is the breakthrough moment. Instead of trying to force all that messy data into these huge, clumsy categories, the team did something brilliant. They decided to completely flip the question on its head, and that single pivot changed everything. Let's really dig into this slide, because this is the heart of the entire strategy. The old question was problem first. It asked which age groups have a debt problem. The new question is user first. It says, forget the problem for a second. Let's pick a really tight 5-year age band, like 28 to 32, and figure out what their specific, unique problems are. You see that? That little shift from focusing on the problem to focusing on a specific person? Well, that brought instant clarity. And all of a sudden, with this new user-first approach, the team could map out a person's entire financial journey. They could break it down into these clear, distinct stages. The chaos started to look a whole lot more like a predictable timeline. And what they found is just fascinating. It starts with the early earners, who are just getting their first loans. Then it moves to the debt trigger years, followed by the family crunch, the late regret zone, and finally post-retirement. Each of these little clusters has its own very specific set of pains. It turned this giant, messy problem into a clear lineup of potential customers. So now they've got a map. Awesome. But the big question is still there. Where do you start? Where do you intervene first? So the team put on their detective hats and started following the data, hunting for the origin point of the biggest pain of all, debt. Where does it really start to spiral? First, we gotta define what we're looking for. We're hunting for something called the debt trap. This is that critical turning point where financial tools, like an EMI, which is supposed to help you buy a car or a house, suddenly get overused for lifestyle stuff and become this incredibly harmful burden. And the data trail was crystal clear. The first piece of evidence from Sybil and the RBI showed that a majority, a full 53% of people, take out their very first personal loan before they even hit 30. And right on top of that was the second clue. 57% get their first credit card in that exact same early time frame. You put those two together, and it's obvious that the habits of borrowing are formed really, really early. So when you pull all the data together, the evidence is just overwhelming. The median age, that perfect sweet spot for when a person takes on their first significant debt, lands squarely in the 28 to 32 age range. That's our cluster 2, the debt trigger years. Now, the data didn't just point to a target. It basically screamed, this is the perfect strategic entry point. But the question is, why this group? What makes them the absolute ideal place to start? Well, it really boils down to 3 key things. First, people in this group are feeling the pain of their EMI payments right now. It's not some problem in the future, it's a headache they have today. Second, they're far enough along in their careers that they actually have the income to pay for a solution. And third, and this is so important, they are the perfect pivot point for future growth. This focus also made it super clear why the other groups weren't the right starting point. Think about it. Cluster 1, the younger folks, they're easy to reach, but they don't have the money to pay for anything. Then you have cluster 3, the slightly older group. They're busy, they're harder to convince, and you need a ton of trust to win them over. Cluster 2 is that perfect sweet spot, that perfect balance of immediate pain and the ability to pay. And just like that, the strategy became crystal clear. Phase 1, conquer cluster 2. Give them the tools they need to manage their debt. Phase 2, expand downward to cluster 1 and help prevent them from falling into the same trap. And Phase 3, grow upwards to cluster 3, offering more advanced tools as your original customers get older and their needs change. It's just a beautiful, scalable roadmap. And that's really the key takeaway from this whole thing. By focusing all their energy on this one single critical moment, that turning point where a helpful tool becomes a harmful one, RRY was able to turn an impossibly huge problem into a focused, data-driven, and honestly, a winning business strategy. Makes you wonder, what other giant problems could be solved by finding a similar turning point?